My name is Charles Wolofsky. I am an attorney, was trained and practiced as an attorney. I have experience investing and managing both technology companies and real estate. And thank you, Marty, by the way, for that warm introduction. And that led me to found a few years ago Control-E. Before I start, I'd like to ask how many of you in this room own a commercial building or are considering investing in one? So then this presentation is specifically for you. The problem, buildings on average currently waste 30% of its energy consumption. As you know, utility expenses for most buildings are the second largest operating costs after property taxes. While it is logical that a reduction of energy consumption would translate into an equal reduction of energy costs, the reality is that the potential savings are significantly higher than 1-to-1. Avoidance of peak demand charges, which may be double or triple the cost of off-peak charges, in addition to rebates and other incentive programs, make the potential savings far more attractive. Energy waste also causes unnecessary carbon emissions. Energy consumption is directly related to carbon emissions. Greater consumption leads to greater emissions. In fact, buildings currently account for 40% of all carbon emissions globally. If we can reduce our carbon consumption, or our carbon emissions, if we can reduce our energy consumption, we can reduce our carbon footprint. In addition to being good global citizens, being environmentally conscious will also affect the bottom line. In general, there is a global push towards net zero emissions, resulting in regulations that penalize carbon emissions. For example, here in New York, there is already on the books New York law, local law 87, requiring benchmarking the carbon footprints of buildings, and this has been in effect for close to a decade. Now, local law 97 has already been signed into law and goes into effect in 2024, will penalize building owners that have carbon emissions above specified thresholds. These regulations are here to stay, and it is foreseeable that other states and municipalities will begin to adopt similar regulations. Therefore, from a pure regulatory and economic standpoint, building owners need to take control of their carbon footprint. Let's understand the problem. Why does 30% of energy consumption go to waste? The answer is simple. Building owners currently lack the capability to meaningfully monitor and manage their energy consumption, meaning you currently do not understand in real time how you are consuming your energy. Even if you had this data, you lack the capability to act upon it. The inability to monitor and manage energy consumption leads to waste. I'd like to take it from the abstract to the concrete. Let's take your typical HVAC system. It's controlled by a thermostat. Let's say you set the set point to 70 degrees. The room heats up, the HVAC goes on. The room cools down, and the HVAC turns off. This on-off setting could happen, multiple times an hour, multiple times a day, and it is highly inefficient. The best analogy I've found to illustrate the inefficiency is that of a car. If you would like to understand the fuel efficiency of a car, you would look, the sticker will show you two numbers, the miles per gallon on city driving and miles per gallon on highway driving. The city driving is considerably lower. You get far less efficient when you're in the city, even though on the highway, you're going at much faster rates and a greater distance. The reason for that is the constant stop and go with acceleration and deceleration eats up a tremendous amount of energy. In a similar manner, the on-off of an HVAC is like city driving, and it is highly inefficient. If instead of controlling the HVAC on an on-off setting, you would be able to monitor and identify the HVAC's peak efficiency band, and I'm going to argument's sake say it's between 20 and 70% capacity, and that instead of turning it on and off, let's say for argument's sake, you kept the HVAC on the entire day and modulate your consumption across its peak efficiency band, then you would realize a considerable energy savings while maintaining the comfort of the building. It is important at this juncture to note that there are currently energy management systems and building management systems in the marketplace that do a fairly good job optimizing a building's energy consumption. However, these solutions are not cost effective for buildings that are 50,000 square feet or less, which I would call smaller buildings, and comprise more than 75% of the US commercial real estate market. This leads me to explain what we are doing at my company, Control-E. Over the last few years, we have been working on developing a building intelligence and energy management system that is capable of monitoring and managing in real time the various energy loads across a building, and is compatible and cost effective for all buildings, especially buildings that have 50,000 square feet or smaller buildings. I am proud to announce that we will be commercially launching our solution in the fourth quarter of this year. We have developed a building intelligence and energy management platform that is comprised of 3 different components. At the edge, we have a network of load controllers, which is a piece of hardware that connects directly to different loads throughout a building, such as the HVAC system, lighting systems, water systems, heat pumps, boilers, and other systems. Our load controller monitors and manages the performance of these loads. For example, it monitors the power consumption, energy consumption, current, pressure, airflows, and other data points at a millisecond level. It then communicates this data wirelessly to the second component of our solution, the coordinator. Our coordinator is a local brain of our system. The coordinator receives in real time the data from our network of load controllers, and based on proprietary algorithms, sends commands back down to the network of load controllers to optimize the performance of the various loads. The coordinator also sends the data back to our cloud, which is a third component of our solution. In our cloud in the aggregate analyzes the data we receive from all the buildings in the Control-E network to refine our algorithms to optimize the performance of the buildings in our Control-E network. In addition to monitoring and managing the various energy loads across a building, our system also is able to optimize the different power sources across the building, such as electrical power from the grid, solar panels, on-site storage such as battery and thermal storage, on-site fuel cells, thermal systems, and boiler systems. Meaning, just to explain this for a moment, many buildings have alternative energy sources such as solar panels, but they still require connection to the grid in the event that the alternative energy sources do not provide sufficient power, say on cloudy days. Our solution is capable of managing these energy sources to ensure that you're efficiently using the energy from the grid at times when the energy is cheapest, and using the energy generated from the alternative energy sources from the grid when the energy from the grid is more expensive. It's also worth noting that we designed our system to seamlessly integrate with and enhance existing building and management systems and energy management systems. With our solution, building owners can optimize energy consumption, reduce carbon emissions, and lower utility costs. In addition, our solution enables any building to become grid interactive and become eligible for demand response programs. Demand response programs are highly attractive incentive programs offered by utility companies to compensate building owners for lowering their energy consumption. Specifically, during high demand times, say on a hot day when there's a considerable pressure on the grid, the utility will declare that it's a demand time, and that the buildings that have opted into this program will need to respond by shutting down certain energy loads. In order for this program to work, in advance, building managers need to identify which loads they will turn off during a demand period, and utilities need to have direct access to these loads so that in a demand time, they will be able to press a button and shut down the specified loads. Currently, only larger buildings that have a grid interactive building management systems are capable of participating in these programs. Our solution democratizes the demand response programs and enables smaller buildings to become grid interactive and participate in demand response programs. I'd like to thank you all so much for letting me share something dear to my heart, pocketbook, and commitment to the planet. I welcome the opportunity for questions and to speak with you individually to see how our technology might best serve your portfolio of buildings. I believe together we can really make a difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. So before we end this, I have a couple of questions. So talk about, you said that 250,000 square feet or less
50,000.
50,000. How many buildings are there like that in the United States that don't have this kind of technology already?
I mean, 75, more than 75% of the buildings in the US are under 50,000 square feet.
So how much real estate is that?
Oh, we're talking
Square footage?
many tens of billions of square feet.
Tens of millions of square feet?
Billions.
Billions of square feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so, and none of them have these in place right now?
The
or-
smaller buildings do not.
Smaller
They
buildings
may have various IoT products. You know, on the residential side, you'll see a Nest thermostat, you know, and, you know, so you have IoT software-based solutions, but something that does real-time power monitoring and management doesn't exist.
What does it take to get, you know, to install this and train people, et cetera? And like, what's the payback period? You know,
Yeah, assuming that there are no utility rebates, the payback period would be under 3 years. With utility rebates, you know, for certain systems, depending on the solution, we could see upwards of 70%, even 100% rebates for the installation, meaning that the payback period is almost immediate.
what are typical rebates? I mean, like, what states have rebates, like 20%?
Yeah, I mean, it's not 20%. It basically is project based, you know. So we work with a third party entity that manages rebate programs for utilities around the country, and each country. So there could be utility rebate programs, state rebate programs, all kinds of incentives provided. So it could depend on the characteristic of the building, whether it's a multifamily, whether it's an office building, depending on the region and locale. It's too difficult to quantify in a pithy answer. It's best to say there are incentive programs in New York. We're looking, let's say, for a built boiler system solution at 100% rebates.
What's the cost of installation?
Assuming
Like for a 50,000 square foot building.
it's $1.25 for the per square foot. So on a 50,000 square foot building, I think you're talking about 62.
About $60,000, somewhere around that.
6250.
Okay.
62,500. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So, and the payback period is 3 years without rebates.
Assuming no rebates, then it'll be a payback period of 3 years.
How does that function, you know, when there's volatile energy pricing, as we kind of anticipate, you know?
In terms of,
you know, is the payback period faster?
I think so. Conservatively, that payback period of 3 years is assuming a 1-to-1 savings. So, but if you're really shaving off peak demand charges, and you're able to engage, you're able to partake in other incentive programs for usage, then that payback period can be considerably shorter.
And could this do this floor by floor? Or is it just a building control? Like
No, but 4x4, you have granular control.
So it's granular. You have 4x4 apartment building. Office.
We're talking about, we can go down to a spatial resolution of under 100 square feet.
Interesting.
Yes, you could actually go office by office.
This must be great, like for like suburban office space, I guess, and things like that.
I think any building, frankly.
Warehouses.
We're looking at all kinds of buildings. You know, the investors in our company are all strategic investors who, you know, we have starting off over 20 million square feet, covering office, retail, multifamily, hotels, nursing homes, even hospitals. So, you know, we have a robust market really that covers all kinds of real estate asset classes.
Great. And how do you distribute the product?
I mean, we do it. Well, we work through. We did initially directly through, you know, just my relationships. You know, we have.
Yeah, like third-party relationships.
And then really how to install is, yes, we work with third-party installers, electrical contracting companies, and HVAC services providers. If we're dealing with HVAC, in order to install this.
Hey, Tony with SkyTech Capital. Congratulations, Vance, on your.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
Question is, the solution your company offers is effective for assets with a smaller footprint.
Yes.
We're multi-family, you know, investors.
Yes. The short answer, yes. I have over 100 buildings in New York City that are multi-family, 5 stories.
Okay, just want to make sure the solution didn't work primarily on a larger
And you pretty
scale.
much self-funded most of this, right?
Just self-funded and with some strategic capital that's in our network.
Is there intellectual property around this?
We have over 5 approved patents. Anyway, say we have 5 approved patents, and we are we're filed for 2 additional patents as well. With once we were doing something really unique with power monitoring, which we recently filed for, covering. We have our claims are approved claims are over 100 different claims.
Wow, that's a lot.